Would you rather buy a nice gift for someone or make a DIY gift for someone?
Ooh. Oh, I really don't know. I've done
I know it's a
both.
tough one.
I've done
I'm
both.
really on the fence about this. It's tough.
Ah, I'm actually having a really hard time with this.
I
I think
know.
I think I'm gonna go DIY.
Really, because I was going DIY too, and I did not expect that from you. So look at us,
Yeah,
twinning.
yeah,
DIY all the way.
DIY.
No idea. No idea.
Welcome to Second Saturday, the podcast where every Sunday feels like a Saturday.
This is episode 31, and I'm Ainsley.
This is Jan.
And today we're doing another Lodge Life deep dive. This is a little favorite of everyone's, and we're talking about the one and only, the bear.
The Bears.
The
The
bears.
Bears.
All the
The
bears.
Bears. The Bears. The
The
Bears.
bears. The
Yes.
bears. Lots of bears.
We did have bears in and around
We have
camp.
lots of bears.
We have bears on many different levels when we're going to talk about this
Yes.
today because we were a hunting and fishing camp. So we're going to talk about
In the remote wilderness,
in the remote
where
wilderness,
wildlife just comes to you.
right? So I don't know who was more wild, the bears or us, Ainsley.
That's actually a great question.
That's a good question too. That is. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But first, we were both on the fence on this would you
I
rather,
know.
and
I really enjoy buying someone a
I
gift they
know.
really want. Like
I
when there's something
know.
they really want, like to buy it for them is just amazing.
Oh, I
But
know.
like for this past Christmas, for example, I made a DIY advent calendar. And I
Yes.
got to put like personalized little gifts in it. And
Okay.
I built a little Christmas tree calendar. And so that was a lot of fun. But like
Okay.
I guess that's kind of a little bit of both because like I purchased the gifts, but I made that
Well,
one's
but
a
you
little bit
gotta purchase
difficult.
stuff to make a DIY project anyway. So
Yeah,
no,
that's
I'm gonna
true.
say it's a DIY.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what that it is so nice. Like, trust me, we both have made both or done both over the years. And to buy that nice
Listen,
gift,
we are the gift givers of the family.
we are, we have. Should we do we divulge the secret today, or do we like it's a hard no and we'll wait still?
I think we'll wait a little bit.
Okay, but we
Maybe we'll
are
wait till
definitely.
after my birthday.
Oh, between the 4 people in our family, Ainsley and I are the ones that are well, but no,
Listen, no,
I
okay.
have
The boys, they have their moments.
yeah,
So
like, and your
they
dad's
have
pretty
like
good.
my dad's pretty good. My brother's pretty good too now. But
He's
like
starting.
it's just it's the getting to the gift. It's the process to get the gift, I guess, is what we should that what the where the gray area is. Like
Yes.
that's a little difficult for them.
Yes. So, but yeah, I love making a good DIY project, especially if it's something that somebody's really gonna love. Now,
Yeah.
I made a DIY jacket for Garmin this
Oh
year,
yeah.
but I have yet to relocate it since Christmas. I don't know who took it or who moved it.
Well, it needs to be fixed, remember?
He did rip into it because Garmin got to open his own gifts and he did rip into it and make a little snag in it. So
But
I
hey,
do have
it's
to fix
DIY,
that.
so you can fix it.
It's DIY. I can fix it, and it's cute as heck.
I've done I've done a few DIY over the year. I gave my grandpa a little like it's not really DIY, but I gave him a photo frame with pictures of all the dogs he's had over the years.
That's a DIY.
Um, I did a similar thing of photos of myself and my girlfriend. I put them on a little like cork board for her. So
Mhm.
I've done some DIYs.
Nice. I did a lot of DIY when I was in university because I had 0 money. And then when your dad and I were newly engaged, weren't quite married, he had some cousins that were going through a series of weddings. So I made DIY cookbooks where I made them like
Oh,
individualized, personalized cookbooks and threw some recipes in and then made recipe cards for them so that they could add to it. So I've done a few
that's
DIYs.
fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
But how about you, the viewers? Which would you rather do?
Yes.
Would you rather buy the gift or would you rather make the DIY gift? So let
Yeah.
us know. Put it in the comments.
Like
Um,
DIY gifts are
yeah.
so fun. Like I had this one made for me and it's a little have a little legend and all these have all each color is something else and they're all written, you know? So
Those are
they're little
cute.
notes. So like it's the best
DIY
of
is
both
fun.
worlds. You can
It
like
is the best.
it's fun to get a very heartfelt gift, like a homemade, but it's also
Yeah.
nice to get something you really want to.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
for sure. So, I agree, Ainsley, 100%.
yeah.
Anyways, viewers, let us know. Throw it in the comments.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
We want to see. We need to see.
We do.
Are you
We need
DIY?
gift ideas.
Yeah, or gift ideas too. Great.
Yeah.
Or what you've done as a DIY gift in the
Oh,
past. Let us
yeah.
know. Put it in there. What have you made that's a DIY gift if you've done one? So, love to hear that.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be skipping over the weather.
Weather. Because
Who
really, has it
knew?
changed? No.
It hasn't changed. It's
No.
just we're just in limbo. Same old,
Yeah.
same old. So we're gonna
Same
just be
old.
like, it's
Because we
dead
got
to
a
us
lot to
this
talk
week.
about.
We got a lot to talk about today. What are we
We've
talking
got
about today, Ainsley?
bears. Bears,
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 bears, bears, bears,
and more
bears,
bears.
and more bears, more
And more
bears.
bears.
It's all about bears.
It's all about the bears.
Um, all about the bears. Yeah.
Yes.
So we had a hunting and fishing lodge. And so yeah, we hunted bears. Did we have bears in camp? Yes. So we're gonna talk about a few different things. We got a couple of funny stories,
Yeah,
right?
we have a few prominent bears in our lifetime.
We have had a few prominent bears in our lifetime. There's no denying that. Absolutely. So, first question, Ainsley, bears, were we scared of them when we lived at the lodge?
Yes and no. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure you guys weren't that scared of them. As a little kid, you're
you
kind of
were.
scared of bears.
Yeah.
I was mainly scared of bears at night. So if I knew there was a
Yes.
bear in camp, trying to go to the outhouse to go to the washroom was rough. I can remember opening that door and you sprint to the bathroom. You're in there and then you sprint back to the cabin. Like that was the worst part. And like
Because
in
they were
terms of
waiting
like,
in between the
oh yeah,
cabin and the bathroom to just like pounce.
yeah, they're ready to attack. Otherwise I wasn't too terrified. If there was a bear in camp, then anything I would like want to do like in the actual like woods, I kind of didn't
Mhm.
just because it was like you
Yes.
never like one because I was scared and one just kind of on a safety thing. Like you just weren't sure,
Yes.
especially because like we had people there, we had food, garbage, so like
Mhm.
they weren't really scared to come in if people were around
No. And trust me,
necessarily.
there were signs if there was a bear,
Yeah,
in and
our
around close to
garbage was
camp.
everywhere.
You could tell
That was
there
the
might be
sign.
some bear scat and stuff,
Yeah.
down a trail or something like that, and you could tell if it was like new or not.
Hmm.
And then yeah, if they had like dug into the ground at all, or if they've
Got into
gotten
our
into our garbage,
garbage.
then
Or they really liked our gas cans too.
bears love plastic. This is one thing we've discovered after owning a lodge for a gazillion years, is they love to bite and chew on plastic. That is their version of gum.
Yeah.
And whenever there was a jerry can around, bears like to bite a big jerry can just to bite
Yep.
the plastic, and they like to bite at the lowest point. So if there was
Yes.
anything in it, it's
It's
all going to
all
drain
out.
out, and it's completely ruined regardless. So we've gone through countless
Oh yeah.
jerry cans and like 5 gallon pails. They just
Yep.
love to bite on plastic. I don't know
They do.
what it is about
Garbage
their jam.
cans,
Garbage cans,
everything.
they like plastic.
We had one summer. We came up I think we either came up late or something happened, but bears like they kind of function off patterns, like they're repetitive in what they do.
Yeah.
So once they kind of are aware of one thing, they will do it repeatedly. And so we had one
Yes.
spring before we got up where we must have had a mouse bucket or something in a cabin in the porch because we had a bear
Hmm.
break into every cabin's screen and porch.
Screen
Like
and
they climbed through the
porch.
screen
They
and
did.
every single garbage can, because there was the smell of garbage on it, had like claw marks and teeth marks in
Yeah,
it.
that's right. You remember when we kept a couple of those? So
Yeah.
then, like, the poor
Oh, they
guests
were just
walk
in
in
the
and they could
hey,
see,
we
like,
didn't have garbage cans to spare.
no, we didn't.
Those garbage cans were there forever.
That's a really good sign when you
Yeah.
first get to a fishing lodge and you
Oh
go
yeah.
into the screen and porch and there's bear
Yeah.
claws couched out of a
So, because we
garbage
had
can.
5 cabins, so the bear just it went
Yep.
into every cabin. It was like,
Yep.
"Oh, there's food in this one, there's food in everyone."
It was like
So,
Goldilocks.
oh, it really, really was.
Goldilocks and the 5 porches.
That's a good one.
Right? We should write a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was not really scared of bears, truthfully, just because, like, as soon as, if you could give them a good scare, they generally didn't come back. But if they
Yeah.
had ever like gotten a little bit of taste of food and or the smell of that, they were going to keep coming around.
Yeah.
I remember when
And
I
I
was
guess
pregnant.
also well, we never had, like, mama bears, you know?
No,
Because,
no,
like,
we only had male
if you
bears.
scare a mama bear, you don't wanna do that.
No,
Male bears,
um,
you scare them, they run away. So,
they're
I
out.
think that definitely helped with the fear. Like, you knew if you were
Yes.
loud enough, the bear wasn't gonna come near
Yeah,
you.
and I mean, trust us, we were not
Oh, we
quiet
are
people
yeah.
living our lives out there either. So a bear can hear you a lot farther away than you can hear a bear coming. So
Yeah.
they probably heard us. We don't want to be any part of those yahoos.
Yeah.
I don't blame
Anyways.
them. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Yes. So, how many bears did you actually see in camp? So we had the camp for, well, we had two different camps and we owned both of them simultaneously for a few years, but
I think it was about
overall we were
16
in camp
years.
for 16,
Yeah, cause
16 years.
you had lodge the year before me, and my last summer I turned 15 up there.
Okay. Yes.
So I think somehow I have a really weird memory. I don't know if it's something that actually happened, but I can like remember being really little at our second lodge with the
Okay.
people that were running it. And
Yeah.
like I can remember a bear like walking up onto the porch. And like I feel like I remember the bear on its hind legs almost. But that could just be some
Really?
weird dream I had. But that's like a very vivid thing in my brain. And I don't
It
know
could
why.
be. Like, and I might not have been there. I might have been busy cleaning
Yeah,
cabins or
like
something if you were
I'm
there with
assuming
that other
they were
couple.
looking after us.
Yeah, because
But
they used to babysit you.
so I don't know, but anyways, that's just something that I'm always like,
Okay.
yeah, I saw this bear, but I could have just dreamt it. I really don't
Huh.
know.
So how
But
many do you
anyways,
remember?
I probably remember 3 or 4 bears. All the bears I remember were at our second lodge.
Okay. And
I I don't ever remember a bear being in camp in our first lodge.
okay, probably not because I
Only
remember
the ones that people brought back from hunting.
right. I remember two bears. The very first season we were there, we had a bear come in the evening and God was able to scare it away. And then there was a time when I was pregnant for you. No, I had you. You were not quite a year old, and I was pregnant with your brother. And anyways, a bear came around the corner when I was carrying you, and I ended up having to shoot that one.
Yes.
So yeah, so we'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I feel like just to clarify, like we were so far from town that
yes,
we couldn't call conservation and
no,
be like, "Hey, we have a bear in camp and they're going to boat an hour and a half with a like a big live bear trap thing to
right,
capture it and boat it back out."
true.
Imagine having a bear in one of those in the boat
Oh
just
my gosh.
rustling
Like, okay,
around.
so we were 42 miles
Miles.
by
Yeah.
boat. So we were well over an hour's
Yeah.
boat ride. So yeah, conservation, they had an understanding.
Yeah, so it was
They
kind of like
knew,
they understood us that like obviously we tried as hard as we could to
yes,
scare bears away,
first and
and then if it just
foremost.
as soon as the bear became a nuisance, that's when we were like,
Yeah,
unfortunately,
yeah.
we'd have to shoot the bear. But yeah,
And we were able to
most
scare
times they
away.
stayed away.
Yeah, we were. I
Yeah.
only think, yeah, we only had a couple of instances versus I can remember. So if you remembered like four,
Hmm.
then I would have to say there was maybe six in the whole 16 years that we were
Yeah.
there. Like we had some summers where there weren't any at
No.
all, which is good. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
if we had six in camp, I'm trying to
I
think.
mean, I'm sure there's probably
One,
more.
two, I think two at the original lodge, and probably four that I saw at
Yeah,
the
because
second
we
lodge
didn't
that we
have
purchased.
another one at the original lodge until it was with another owner.
Right.
Because
So
remember,
that's not us.
the bear, like you could see the nose print of the bear on the glass window. That this other gentleman, like he had our old lodge, and the bear had like looked
Right?
inside. He was like, "Hello."
Yeah. Is anybody in there? Got
Yeah,
any good yummy?
yeah,
I'd like a yummy.
yummy, yummy.
Yeah, so I think probably 6, I would say,
Yeah,
is a fair number.
yeah. I'm trying. I kind of keep thinking of more as we talk about it, but yeah,
Well, I mean, I can only remember 4, but listen, my memory, it's out the drain
I might
nowadays, it
only
feels.
remember 4 as well. I really couldn't
And
tell
then
you.
2 from the previous ones. Okay, so
Yeah,
let's still say 6.
yeah, yeah.
And what did we do to prevent them from trying to come into camp? So what were the precautions
Well,
that we
like
used to do?
obviously we were in the middle of the bush, full of food. We had garbage, food with guests who had their food everywhere. We had fish guts. Like
Fish guts daily.
we were a buffet for these bears. Let me tell you. um,
Yes, we were a
so
buffet.
the fact that we only had like maybe 6 bears over the years is pretty good.
It's pretty impressive.
um, but yeah, so like our fish guts, as soon as the buckets would get full, we'd be very good at making sure we take those and dump
Before
them
the end of
away from
day,
camp. Yeah.
we
Get rid
dispose
of
of them
those.
elsewhere and
And
reclean the
then
entire fish
yeah, spray it all
cleaning
down.
area. Yeah, that was the
Obviously
kids'
smells are
job.
still there, but if there's nothing to actually eat, then the
Yeah.
likelihood of them coming back is a lot lower. And then
And I
we
think we
had
only ever had one time where it broke in.
yeah.
That was it. So that's pretty
So
good out of all those
also
years.
had like a little metal shed that was like our gas. It was like a storage shed, I guess.
Yeah, you're
It
right.
had our gas
Like a
cans
garden
and like
shed.
any fishing stuff we needed in there for the guests, but we also kept our garbage in
Our
there.
garbage, yeah, because we
And we could
trucked our
lock
garbage
it.
out. We took
Yeah,
our garbage back to the local
back to
landfill,
town. Yeah,
back to town. So that was the kids
yeah,
and I's
job.
job, during the school year when we would come
Yeah.
up on the weekends. We got to pile the front of
Oh
our
yeah.
boat chock full
Oh yeah.
of lots of garbage from the entire week
So we
and
had
take it
that
back.
we could
Yep,
lock that up if we had enough garbage in
we
there.
did.
And then otherwise you just kind of had to make sure you cleaned up after yourself. Like
You
we'd make
did,
sure
like
that the guests were kind of aware. Like you got to
mhm,
like keep your food inside. Don't
yep.
try not to leave it out.
Shore
What's
lunch
quite
areas or
surprising?
barbecues had to
Yeah,
be,
that's
make
true.
sure there's no food left on them or anything like
You
that.
know what? Now that I think about this, we only had bears.
Yeah.
Like we never had other animals like roaming, really. Like
Well,
other
if
than
we
just little like little animals.
squirrels and chipmunks
Yeah,
and
but like you know what I
bunnies and
mean?
things like that.
But we
But what
never
else
had
would we
like
have had?
any I don't know,
Like,
foxes? I don't know.
and we might have.
Maybe. That's true.
Maybe they only
Anyways,
came out at night
that's
and they don't
that's
make as much of a mess as a bear.
that's off
Um,
topic. But yes,
but
we kind of made everyone aware. Keep your area clean
yes,
so that bears couldn't come into camp.
yes, no sense in giving them a reason to come check us out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was pretty good. Although our guests, bless their hearts, they would kind of
Yeah.
fumble up the odd time. I
Yeah.
remember the one day I got up in the morning and I think I was cleaning. I think I was cleaning outhouses. And as the outhouses were all situated, so the lake was in front, and then it was the row of cabins, 5 cabins, guest cabins, and then behind that were the outhouses right at the bush line. And
Mhm.
so they're kind of out and behind the way. So I'm going behind, and it's mid morning, and I'm trying to refresh up the outhouses and stuff for our guests. And I looked at a couple of cabins, and there was a trail of like lettuce and apple bits and a few other like things all the way back to the cabin stairs. And I thought, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I picked it all up because I'm like, well, why would we have that out? So I got talking to our guests at a later time, either that day or the next day. I'm like, so I just noticed that there was like some stuff strewn, and they're like, oh yeah, no, we put those out for the rabbits, because we knew that they really like that. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah. You
the
can't do that.
bears also like that as well.
Yeah.
So rabbits, they'll be
Yeah.
okay. They've got
Yeah.
lots of foliage to eat. We're
Oh
good.
yeah. Yeah, we
And they're
had
like,
some
oh,
interesting people. That's for sure.
we did.
But bears, and more bears.
I
I
love
think the
that.
first, well, it's yeah, the first bear I remember.
Okay.
I don't even know. Like that I know we probably had more. I think the prominent bears I'm thinking of are ones that like we either had incidents with or maybe had to like shoot them unfortunately. But I'm pretty sure we had more bears just kind of come and go a little bit.
Maybe.
Um, but oh, I really don't know. Maybe with the dog. That might be the first one because
Oh,
I was there for that.
do you remember that?
I do. I don't.
Like
Were
behind our
you
cabin?
there or were you
I
somewhere
was in
else?
the cabin, so I didn't see it, but I
Okay,
think your dad was
because
coming out of the cabin.
I remember being in. We had a bear come in, and so we had kind of scared it away. Like it had
Mhm.
kind of strewn a trail of garbage into the trees a little bit, and so that was fine, and it was gone. And then we were we were doing something. I don't know. I'm pretty sure dad was in the porch, like our screen in the porch on our cabin.
I think
And
so.
he looked behind the cabin and I just remember he just started swearing. He was like, "Oh no." And there was like nothing we could do. And he's like the dog is face to face with the bear right
He
now.
was.
Like
He came face to face.
they were having a little stare down. And
Mhm.
our dog is not aggressive
No.
in the
So
slightest.
here's how the showdown went. So I think the bear grabbed a bag of garbage and drug
Yep.
it back to the tree line. And back there we had one of our old fishing boats that was just a little
Yes.
14-foot
Just kind of stored
fishing boat,
back there.
stored back there. So it was upside down, so it couldn't get any water in it. And so, anyways, the bear had drug it behind that boat. And anyways, Garwin's just doing his thing, and he wasn't very old. He was just a couple of years old,
Yeah.
I feel. And anyway, so he's walking around and he must have smelt it. But, anyways, he came up on the other side of the boat, and all of a sudden, Garmin's standing there, and all of a sudden, whoop, right on his hind
Yep.
legs, this bear
This
stands
bear
there
comes out.
and looks at Garmin too,
Oh,
which I think is when your dad saw it. And the
there
bear
was
looked at Garmin.
nothing
The
I
bear?
just remember I just like freaking out. I was like, the dog's gonna die. This is it.
Well,
This is the end. But like what there was nothing we could do because you didn't really want
no.
to frighten the bear and then it turn on the dog. It
Yes,
was
but I
really just a
think
waiting game.
well, I think so they looked at each other and Garmin's just thinking, "Oh, this is a brother from another
Yeah,
mother.
it's a
Like,
friend.
nice to meet you, buddy."
Yeah.
Like not having a hot clue.
Yeah.
And the bear looked at him, and I think your dad started to yell out of the screen and porch, and the bear just turned and beat her
Off it
through
went.
the bush.
Yeah.
And of course, where is our dog going?
In the
So
bush.
Garmin went and
He's
he
like, "Oh, my
followed
friend."
for not very long because your dad was yelling and swearing and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. All the guests, I think, were out fishing. Anyways, it didn't take very long. Garmin did a quick turnaround and back he was. And that bear didn't come back after that. Garmin was a
No.
good deterrent
Yeah.
um, for like,
And
not
like
that
we
he
made
chased them
sure
off, but
it's quite funny. We get a dog and we get a black dog. That is like a
that looks
decent
like a bear.
sized dog. Yeah.
He's
So like
huge.
we always had a collar on him
Yes.
usually. Especially if guests were in camp because
Hmm.
you didn't want them to mix him up with the bear, which that
No,
did
there was
happen once.
we had several times that guests would be in their back bedroom, and of course, it
Yeah.
looks out onto the back
The
to the tree
woods.
line,
Yeah.
and Garvin's just walking along doing his business, and they are thinking that it's a small
Yes, a
little
bear,
bear. So we
little bear
always kept a bright orange collar on that
collar on him.
dog.
But I can remember one time my grandparents were up, and they
Mhm.
were staying in like one of the cabins, and I was staying in the cabin with them as well because I wanted to spend time with them. And I can remember my grandma, she looks out the window and she's like, "Oh, Garmin's out there," and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of weird. Like it's like pretty late. Like I thought you guys would have him in the cabin." And I looked out and it was a bear.
Oh.
And I was sacrificed to run from that cabin to our,
To
like,
tell us.
cabin to tell you guys that there was a bear. But it was a pretty small bear, but I can remember she's like, "Oh, like, Garmin must be out there," and I was like, "Oh," and so I was like, "Oh, I'll go look at him," and I was like, "No, that's an actual bear." It was just a little, like, he was probably just maybe a year or 2 off of his mom type thing, but
Oh my god.
I was like, and so I remember, like, bracing myself, and I just remember beelining it from the cabin all the way across the lawn, and I was like, "I'm coming." I was like, "There's a bear."
It's only like 40 feet max.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
not
the
that
fact you're
far.
like, "I was the one who was
I was sacrificed.
sacrificed." Oh my
Oh,
gosh, Hazy, that's
yeah.
awesome.
But I can
Oh,
remember being like, "There's no collar on that thing." I was like, "And it's a little plumpy for Garmin,"
it's a
but
little plump.
whatever. So there was that confusion a little bit, but
Oh my god, that is too funny. Oh,
yeah.
that is hilarious. Good grief.
And I had to
Oh,
walk back to
that's
the cabin and go to sleep afterwards. I was like, "Here I go again."
you're laying there for hours and hours wide awake because the
Yeah.
adrenaline is just flying through you.
Yeah.
Oh my
I mean,
god,
I definitely I do
that's
think that when
awesome.
I was aware bear was in camp, I feel like I probably didn't sleep the greatest because 'cause you're just listening, like, you're just like,
You are.
Is there a bear somewhere?" That's kinda like
Yes.
the same thing with, like, I even as a grown person, I hate storms, I hate wind because that was always a big fear
Wind.
around camp.
Wind was our enemy.
Wind's
At
my biggest fear, honestly.
it's the enemy at the
Anyway,
lodge,
so
100%.
that was one of our bears, that little Garmin mix up.
Yes.
Um
Aw. Now there was a time, so I did reference this earlier, but I was
oh,
pregnant with your
yes.
brother, and I ended up having to shoot a bear. So, Ainsley, I think
I
you
would have
were
just been not even a
I wanna say
year?
you would have been just a year. It had to have been in
A year?
August. We only had a few guests in camp,
Oh, it would have been a year.
and your dad was out fishing, he was guiding, and I had been in town probably for a checkup of some sort
Yeah.
because I was newly pregnant with your brother. And so, anyways, and I'd gotten groceries and whatever. So I came back from town, parked the boat. It was like
Yeah.
mid afternoon. So you were quite ready for a nap, and the main lodge overlooked the water. We had a nice little bay that we lived in, and then our cabin was behind the main lodge, kind of
Yeah.
in the trees, like in
It
the
wasn't
bushland
that
a little
far,
bit.
though.
No, but we didn't have any type of scenic view because we left it all
No.
for the guests.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I had to walk around the side of the main lodge and then behind it to get to our cabin. And we had a little bit of an open area back there. We had a
Mhm.
clothesline and some open area. I think we
Little
had
sand pit for us. We had a
sand pit
sandbox
for you
back
guys
there. Yeah.
or for you because it was just you. So, anyways, that's fine. So, I'm holding Ainsley and I'm pretty sure I probably have a bag of something. And, anyways, I came around the corner and there was a bear right in the middle of the opening between the
Wait,
back of the lodge.
I thought I was sleeping during this.
I'm not done my story.
Oh, I didn't know there was more to this story.
I'm
I've
not
never
done
heard
my
this.
story. I've got a
Sorry,
story.
sorry, sorry. I'm sorry.
So I come around the corner because I'm going to lay Ainsley down to have a nap in the back in our cabin, and there's a bear standing in the middle of the opening between, like the just the open field between um, our cabin and the main
And the
lodge.
lodge. Yeah.
So I yelled, and the bear, of course, runs
Over.
behind our cabin, like doesn't run elsewhere, but behind the
Yeah.
cabin. I'm like, great. So I do a little hard turn and I go into the main lodge. Um, and I put Ainsley down
Didn't we
in
have a
the
couch?
we had a couch in a lounge area. So I put
Yeah.
Ainsley down. No, you were on the floor. I didn't put you on the couch, but I
But
put
like,
you
yeah.
down
Yeah.
um and for your nap. So I got you settled. It took me just a couple of minutes. You were tired. And you might have been asleep in my arms at the time. I don't know. So
Yeah, I
anyways,
can go
after
for
I
a
got you
nap right
settled,
now.
get ready for nap. You want me to put you down right now?
Yeah.
Oh. So then I proceeded to walk back out of the back of the main lodge, and I looked. They could not see the bear, so I walked back to our back cabin because my husband had just shown me how to use an old shotgun that we had, just for
Mhm.
protection, just in case,
Yeah.
because he wasn't always around, and I'm
Yeah.
pregnant and stuff
Especially at that lodge, like, he was busy all the time.
all the time.
'Cause we
Gone
had
from
we
like,
had we had fishing guides, we had bear guides, like, it was
oh, he was busy all the time,
dawn to
baiting.
dusk. He was
Yeah, he was a busy guy.
he
So
was.
anyways, I went and grabbed the gun, and I came and got it loaded. I think it was an over under shotgun.
Yeah.
It was old as heck. But anyways, as I was coming back out and I went to walk to the back door of the main lodge, there was a little chute that we had cleared out that we used to do target practice for archery. So if
Bows?
we had any
Yeah.
archery hunters in, and so I looked down that path, and it was only about maybe 20 yards, I want to
Yeah.
say. And the bear was standing there broadside at the end of that trail. And
That
so I'm
means
like,
he
oh,
was ready for a good shooting.
he was
He
broadsided.
he had
It
his
was,
front shoulder
it
up,
was broadside.
ready for the kill shot.
So I was like, oh my God, okay, here we go. So, anyways,
Just
I'm
doing it.
thinking of all the little things that my husband had taught me on what I need to do for this. And I get ready, I take the safety off, and I shot the gun. And I don't know who was more surprised that the gun went off, the bear or myself. And anyways, the bear shot into a little patch of bush between like the main lodge and one of our cabins.
Mhm.
And it was so loud, the gunshot, that I couldn't, my ears were just ringing. I couldn't hear anything. And my first thought was, oh my God, I have deafened my baby. My baby is going to be deaf. It was so loud. I was like,
Yeah.
holy Dinah. So then I'm like, okay. So then that was my first thought. Second thought is, oh my gosh, Ainsley, because it was so loud.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I make sure that, the safety's
Take all
back
the yeah.
on. That's all safe. I run into the main lodge because also we had a big property out in front of the main lodge, and I wanted to make sure that the bear hadn't come out there and or was wounded, because I don't ever
Yes.
want to have to,
You don't
like,
wanna
that's
leave a
just
wounded
cruel.
bear.
So
Yeah.
you want to make sure if you're going to be taking an animal that you either have a clean
What
shot or
what would you have done if the bear ended up on the front lawn? Because her whole
oh my
premise about
gosh.
this is that she didn't want it on the front lawn for when the guests come back, because all
Yes.
our guests were out. What would
Oh
you
my
have
gosh.
done?
Can you
Because my
imagine
dad
me
was out
trying
with them, so you can't even discreetly. They're all driving in. The lawns is it's a wide open lawn to the
to
docks. They're driving in, and you're gonna be like, "Actually, don't look over here. I need my husband, please."
have a
Like,
big
what
blanket
would
just laying in the middle of the lawn? Oh my
like? I
gosh.
can
I don't
just
even know what I
imagine
would
you
have
like
done.
trying to like pull it, like.
I do not know what I would have done, Ainsley. I have not a hot
Yeah.
clue. So, anyways, I run back into the main lodge and I go run over into the lounge, and Ainsley is still sound asleep, which I'm
Sound
like, thank
asleep.
goodness. Okay, that's great. And then I start to look out the main windows to see if the bear is injured, because if it is, I need to then,
Yeah.
not be cruel and make sure
Yeah.
that I have taken care of this bear, because that's just mean and I won't do that.
Yeah, you sound like a
So, anyways,
hitman. I need to make sure I've taken care of it.
taking care of it. I look out, no bear to be found. I'm like, oh God, okay, well, where is it now?
Yeah.
And so, anyways, I went to walk back out through the living room or the dining room into the kitchen and then out the back door. And as this is going to sound weird, but as I was walking through the kitchen, they had a side window open and I heard the bear, and it did what it's called is a death moan.
Yeah.
And that is a good thing, because that is the last bit of oof
Yeah.
that a bear has before you know that they're for sure deceased. So as I was walking, I heard that. So I'm like, okay, that's good.
Mhm.
The bear is done. Like
Yeah.
it's not suffering, it's done. But I couldn't afford to have like a 5-month-old
Yeah.
kid And me being pregnant, trying to do stuff at the lodge and have this bear around because I had scared it off. I think maybe when I went back to the cabin to get the gun, the bear was coming back out again and I had scared it off
Yeah.
once or twice, trying to be like, but it kept coming back.
Yeah. It was just too
So
high risk of a situation because
it's too high risk.
usually you scare a bear away, it's gone for the day. Like, it might come back in the
Yes.
evening, but this bear was, like, very persistent, which you
Yeah.
don't
It was
want
just
those
a
types
young
of
bear. It
bears, yeah.
wasn't like, it was probably hungry and whatever, which,
But
I
a
never want to
persistent
harvest
bear
any
is not
animal.
a good bear.
No, and I never want to harvest any animal unless I'm going to have it to put food on my table. That's
Yeah.
kind of a rule of thumb for me. But when it comes to a safety thing, well, that also trumps all.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so I sat and I waited because I'm like, there's no way I'm going into that little small patch of bush to see where this thing is.
Yeah.
And it was the longest hour and a half before your dad got back from fishing. So, anyways, when your dad got back, I walked down to the dock and I just quietly mentioned to him, because not all fishermen are
Yep.
hunters, we respect that. And I just whispered to your dad, I'm like, I think I shot a bear. And he's like, you think you did or you did? And I'm like, well, no, I shot a bear. He's like, oh my God. And he was so excited. So, anyways, he goes and we literally looked for a good 5 minutes and it was a very small area of
Yeah.
like treed area and bush.
But it was
And
dense.
anyways, we were able to find the deceased bear
Yep.
and your dad was extremely proud of me being the huntress that I am. And so of course there I got a photo with my little bear and my
Your
gun
little
and
bear.
my son is in my belly, which this is
Yep.
the reason why I claim that he is such an outdoorsman because the moment that I shot that bear, we had lots of guests previous years to that talk about buck fever
Mm.
when they're like deer hunting. And I never
Yeah.
really understood like what that was. I'm like, okay, well, whatever. That's stupid, but whatever. When I shot that bear, the amount of adrenaline that shot through my body at that exact moment was unbelievable. I was just like,
Yeah.
like I was amped up. And I'm pretty sure that that's what gave your
Yep.
your brother
My brother.
the love of hunting was that
Like,
jolt of
eats,
adrenaline.
breathes, sleeps like
Oh,
wilderness, like
he's
hunting,
just wilderness
fishing. It's
all day long.
it's in his blood. I think some of your that
Really,
adrenaline just flushed into him
it
and
just
stayed.
shot right into him. So anyways, yeah. So anyways, we discarded of the bear because
Yeah.
we do had a little spot that we could take it on a separate
Yep.
island so that it, nature could go ahead and do its thing, and
Yes.
take care of it. But yeah, that was an interesting time being pregnant. And actually, the year before that, when I was pregnant with you, I was about 7 or 8 months pregnant. Like I was only
Yeah.
maybe a month or maybe 2 months off, so probably 7 months pregnant. And this was our first year season at the lodge, and so my husband was baiting different bait sites because we had some bear hunters in.
Mhm.
And anyways, that evening it was pretty quiet out. And so my husband had gone around and taken the hunters to the tree stands that they need to be in. And then he came back because he wanted to bait a few more sites. And so he stopped. He's like, hey, do you want to come with me? Like we can just, tootle around. I got just a couple of places around the lake to go to. And maybe we'll stop and we'll take a look and see, on a bear stand and see if we see any bears. So I'm like, sure. Like I've
Why
never done
not?
this before. This is great. So, anyways, I jump into the back of the boat and off we go. And we're driving around the lake. And so we had to pull up onto shore. So we just kind of pull up on shore. And it had two consoles between it, like where the driver and passenger sit. And then it was an open bow. So my husband, he turns the motor off. And we have to be very quiet now because
Yep.
we're baiting a bear
Like,
site.
whisper.
And he's like, okay. He's like, come forward and get out of the boat. So I'm like, okay. And I went to go between the consoles and I was so pregnant, I didn't fit. And I was like, oh my God, I can't get to the front of the boat. Like, what am I going to do? So I had to lift my arms as high as they went and I had to shimmy. You were in my belly. I had to shimmy to get to the front of the boat. So that's fine. He helps me over the bow of the boat and we're on this trail to this little bear stand,
Bear stand.
and it's all uphill. So he's got a couple of pails of bait and I'm behind him and I'm trying to be quiet as heck. And I am out of breath because we are walking uphill for a good 45 seconds and I'm like 7 months pregnant.
Yeah.
So we get to the bear site and he points to the tree stand, like initiating me to go up the tree stand to start going up and he's going to
He's
bait it
really
and then we're
putting you
going to sit
through
up.
it.
Oh my gosh, how retarded am I? Like there were a lot of signs that Mother Nature was giving us to be like, do not be here.
Yeah.
But did we listen? No.
Nope.
So anyway, so
Do we
that's
ever
fine. So
listen?
I
No.
right? I start climbing up the rungs of these, and they're just like 2x4s that are
Yeah.
like screwed into the
Nailed in
tree.
the tree.
Well, they were about a 2 foot, um, height difference. And I have this belly and I could hardly get my leg up high enough to get my foot on the next rung. So, anyways, so I'm trying, and my husband's getting the bait set up and whatever. So I finally get almost to the top. I swear to God, he probably had to give me a boost to get up onto the platform because it's like it was a plywood platform
Mhm.
between three trees. There was like triangle
Yeah.
platform. So I get up there and I am completely gassed. Have nothing left in the tank because that was a lot for me being pregnant. And I think I had made some homemade buns that day, and I had a couple of homemade buns that I had brought for my husband and I to snack on. So, anyways, we sat up there, and my husband did have a gun, but we weren't intending on shooting anything. But so we were
You
just gonna,
always bring one into a bear bait
you do,
because you never know if you'll walk onto a bear. Just
right?
putting that out
And
there.
so we're just to be safe. So, anyways, we're watching, we're waiting, and it took maybe 15 or 20 minutes, and these couple of young bears come in, and they're starting to eat the bait. And I'm like, well, that's kind of cool. Like, I've
Yeah.
never really seen this before in nature. So we're just being quiet, sitting up there, minding our own business. And and that's all fine and dandy. And then one of the bears notices us up there, which is fine.
Yeah.
Of course, they're going to notice us.
Yeah.
There's something different there, and we probably have a scent.
Smell. Yeah.
So then the bear proceeds to come to the base of the tree and put its paws up on the tree to look up at us. I'm like, oh, this isn't good.
Okay.
And so my husband just kind of stares down and is like, you okay? Settle down, bear, whatever. Like, don't even try it. And so the bear after that was like, fine, went back to eating, whatever was
Yeah.
on the bait. Without a word of a lie, within minutes, this freak wind and rainstorm came in. Like it kind of got a little bit windy, and then all of a sudden it was like gale winds. There was massive rain. Neither of us had
Rain
a
jacket.
rain jacket on because we didn't really
Yeah.
foresee this coming. Um, and massive rain and massive wind and lightning.
Oh my
Like, and it
gosh.
all happened within like a series of minutes. And we're like, oh my gosh. So all of a sudden, we can't get down out of this tree, and you can see the lightning happening and the wind is coming. The whole three trees are literally rocking like this, and
Yeah.
two of us are sitting up on it. And the couple of bears that are down below, they don't care. So
Yeah.
they're not leaving, and we can't get down because they're there. And there was so much wind that we could hear trees, like the tops of trees
Mhm.
snapping all around us.
That's crazy.
And the wind's just going. And my husband just looks at me, and he looks at the tree behind me, and he just goes, whoo, and he just wrapped his arms around both me and the tree behind us. And we're just sitting there, we're literally rocking like this. And
Yeah.
it's like, what in the world are we doing here? It
That's
literally
crazy.
took maybe about a minute and a half, but you could hear all the trees
Yeah.
snapping all around,
That's crazy.
and it blew through. It was the craziest thing. Um, and then not another breath
Oh
of
my.
wind, or
Yeah.
like it was just a microburst of something. And so anyways,
And for
after a
anyone
while,
who's like, why didn't you scare the bear away? You don't want to scare a bear off a bait because it probably won't come back.
yeah,
Like you
right,
don't
because
want it to know
true.
that a
Yeah,
human's there type thing. So they couldn't really
it
just
can
be like,
be there as
hey,
long as you're
get out
not
of here.
bothering it, then it's gonna think, "Oh, I'm fine to." So
Yeah.
anyways, that was fine. We're soaking wet, and quite a while later, as we're sitting here just still enjoying these bears, watching them do their thing, they tootle off after a while, which is fine, and then we got down, and, we tootled home, and we both
Yeah.
looked at each other like, "How ridiculous are we? Like, this
Yeah.
is not something we're going to be doing ever again.
No.
This was not a great these were not good life
Little
decisions
did you
today."
know that was the start of your bear journey.
Yeah,
Because
right?
on the thing of me sleeping through you shooting the bear, when I was a lot older, like when we were at our second lodge, I can remember waking up one morning, and it was a little bit later into the morning, and people, no one's like in the cabin. I was like, what the heck? And I go outside, and they're hauling a bear off, and I was like, what?
Oh,
And they're like, and I think you're like, you didn't hear the gun? And I was
yes.
like, no, my dad he had to shoot a bear that morning because it was causing a lot of problems,
It was
and I
getting
woke
into our
up.
propane tanks at our
Oh,
barbecues.
and they were like, it was like they were kind of ready to like haul it away type thing, and I was like, what the heck? They're like, you didn't hear the gunshots? I was like, no, I was sleeping. Like,
Oh my
what
gosh.
the heck?
Oh,
So
you know what? That was probably the one that your
no,
dad had to
no,
shoot. That
that one,
wasn't the one?
that one. So my dad had, because he'd go up in the spring on his own, because we weren't
Yes.
at camp for that one,
Oh,
but we were
right.
coming up that day
That's right.
because I remember seeing it because it was a cinnamon bear. Anyways, he was up
So
there with
dumb.
this bear and whatnot in the spring, and we were coming. I think we were coming up the day of, and he this bear was causing him whatever grief it was causing him, and it kept coming back, and he finally saw it on the lawn, but he was
It was
inside
at
our
night. We came
cabin.
up the next day. It was at night because
Oh,
it was
was it?
almost it was
Because
getting dark out.
he left it, didn't he? He didn't touch it till the next day, right?
Yeah.
I remember seeing the
But
bear.
yeah,
But
we got up
anyways,
there in the morning and they were taking care of it. It was the night before. It was getting
yes.
dusk.
And so this bear, he finally had like could see this bear, and he was like, I need to get rid of this bear. But he didn't have time to go through the cabin and go outside, so he got his gun and shot it through our screen porch, like through the screening.
Oh, blew the screen right
Blew it
out of
right
the
up. But he
window
got the
area.
bear.
There was no glass. It was just
No,
strictly
just
screen.
screen.
Just
Poof.
right out.
And we came up next day, and he's like, "Yeah, like I shot this bear." And he's like, "I also broke our screen."
Yeah, we couldn't use it for weeks,
We had a hole in
right.
our screen for most of the summer, and then we never like replaced it. We just got screen tape and taped it up.
I think we just
But
screen taped it. Oh my
it
gosh.
was like such a crazy thing. He's like, "Yeah, I didn't have time to go outside and try and get to the
No.
bear because it would have been gone." He's like, "I had to
Yep.
just do it through the screen."
There was
So
no exit out of our screen porch. It was just
no, it
off
was
of
like
like
on
a
a it was
sliding
pretty
door
high
when it
up
was
high.
raised.
So
So,
yeah, you
sometimes
gotta do what you
listen, when
gotta
you got a
do.
nuisance bear, you gotta do
But
what you
then
gotta
yeah,
do.
and we had one bear get into the fish shack. It kind of
Yeah,
broke through the screen there. We had to fix that. Bears
yeah,
and
it
screens don't
happens.
get along, and screens are hard to fix.
They are hard to fix, but listen, we're in their area. But I would say overall, we really didn't like those are just a few instances
Yeah.
over many, many
Oh yeah.
years. We had several seasons where we didn't have any issues or see any bears in camp, which
Like
was
all the
quite
bears
nice.
I saw were over like 8 years. So
Yeah. So it
yeah,
was pretty good. And unfortunately when
we
you live
did
that far
have
away, you have to do what you have to do.
yeah, exactly. We had one time there was a bear and it was kind of like swimming towards camp, and we were in the boat. And so we kind of were in the boat. We kind of just blocked it a little bit and
Oh
steered it
yeah.
to go away from camp. We like
Yes, we
directed
did.
it
We
to a
sent it
different
over to a different
island.
island.
We were like, "Yeah, please don't come over here."
That's thinking right
Um
there, man.
yeah, that was our
We did
little
it.
precaution. We have like
Yeah.
have bear patrol going back and forth in front of the bay.
Bear patrol.
uh so yeah.
Oh my gosh. So don't think that we're savages, people. Listen,
No,
we did
no.
what we did.
We had
We
lots of
tr-
bears that just scared away, never came back.
yeah. We
Um
tried
yeah.
every route possible before we had to dispose of
Yeah.
one, and we
And
only had
it
to do that
sounds
a
like it's a
couple of
lot of
times.
bears that we like unfortunately had to shoot, but it was really
We're
maybe
literally condensing
4.
16 years
Yeah.
into 35 minutes,
Yeah.
right? So yeah. But you know what, you do what you have to do. Like
Yep.
it's you versus the
Exactly.
wilderness out there a little bit. Like even though like we had all the comfies and amenities that, we were fortunate enough to have, you're still you're
Mhm.
an hour and a half from any town
Yep.
in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
So you're going to come
You
across
had to be careful.
wildlife, and you had to be prepared, and you had to
Yeah.
be careful, and you had to be sometimes you had to put your big panties on,
Yep.
take
Big
care of the
girl.
problem.
Oh yeah.
um Especially when you got little people running around, and trust
Yeah.
me, we
And we
had
had
just as
problems
much.
with other animals. We had problems
Yeah,
with
I was just to say,
groundhogs.
groundhogs, they were worse. We had
We
way
had a
worse troubles with
groundhog try and
groundhogs.
like it was like getting aggressive with my brother. Like
Yeah, like
it
really,
wasn't
like
just bears.
no, it was like, how goofy is that? Groundhogs,
Yeah.
like dumb. And
Yeah.
like even like little birds, swallows used to swoop down and attack us all the time.
Yep.
um
You'd have to
like
like relocate their nest type thing because if there
yeah,
was one like right by your door, you couldn't
yeah,
walk outside because it would just drill you.
they dive bomb you, man. They were
Yeah.
crazy. They were
It was a
crazy
crazy
cray.
world.
We did. We lived in
Yeah.
a bit of
We
a
had beavers that were nuisances. Like we had everything. It wasn't just bears. It wasn't just these big old bears.
no,
It was everything. We had the odd squirrel that would cause problems.
right?
Like
Remember,
yeah.
well, and they didn't cause a problem, but we had ducks that
Oh,
nested underneath
yes.
our cabin.
Yeah.
So after all the ducklings hatched, they stayed under there for like a week or so, and
Yep.
you could hear them. And then we also one year had a grouse that nested underneath our cabin. And so at 3 in the morning, you'd hear "Thump, thump, 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 thump," and it would make the whole cabin shake. Like, and
Yeah.
we tried so hard to eradicate, couldn't eradicate it. We just lived
No,
with
that
it
was the nesting grounds.
right underneath where we sleep. So much fun.
Yep. That's where
That's
the
awesome.
groundhogs were too for a while
They
when we
were,
first moved over there.
listen,
They were under our deck.
we're fun people.
Oh yeah. Oh
Like
yeah.
everybody wants to, and everything wants to be where we are, Ainsley, because you and I are fun.
Oh, we're fun. We're
We're the
super fun.
party.
We are.
Like that, the word in the wilderness was that we were where it was at.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what we'll go with. I love it. Well, that's awesome. Well, man, that was kind of crazy to relive some of those lovely bear stories.
Bear
You know,
stories.
cray cray.
Roar.
But I think that was good. I think we'll leave that at that. We'll
Yep.
talk about other different lodge life things, and we'll talk about other lovely critters that we
Yep.
had and all that fun
Critters.
stuff another
We had
time. But
lots of
that was a really
critters.
good. That was a lodge life deep dive. We
That
deeped
was.
hard.
Oh yeah.
We
We
did.
did a lot of diving there.
We did a lot of diving today. A
Oh
lot
yeah.
of diving. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll leave it at that. Thank
Yes.
you yet again for tuning in to Second Saturday. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the little
Yes.
notification bell.
Yes. And come back and watch us again. Don't let this one deter you
No.
from
If
coming back
anything,
and
you should
hearing.
be more intrigued.
Be intrigued, people.
Be
Be
intrigued. Be
intrigued.
like, wow, what else do they do?
What else did they do? What
A
other
lot.
crazy things?
A lot.
There's lots.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Lots.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay.
Enjoy your Sunday, and we
Yes.
will see you next Sunday.
Bye.
Bye.